We have a quorum. Thank you.
Okay, we pledge of allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Great. And do any of the trustees have any announcements? Donna, anything?
I want to be accurate on the 8th of November is the preparedness at Carpenter Hall at 10 o'clock. I've been to 2 of them. I'll be out of town, but I heartily encourage everyone to send a member of the family if they can't go, because every single one of them more information. And Leslie and I have been to the Monterey one, and I found out more information, and I do now look and see where all the fire plugs are in your area, so you do know where they are. But there's a lot of good stuff, so I encourage people to attend that.
Great, thank you. I want to officially welcome Melinda Cervantes, our interim library director. I think everyone here has met her already and had a chance to talk, but we're thrilled that you're here and look forward to working with you for as long as we can and until we have a permanent replacement.
Right. Thank you, Mary Jo. It's a real pleasure to be here. I'm in my 4th week and certainly meeting a lot of wonderful supporters of the library and all of the fun and activities we're having there. I just want to announce one item. Katie O'Connell, had she been here, would probably make the announcement for our local history collection, and that is we received a Groundworks grant in the amount of $17,514.09. And because of the way some of the grants are handled, this is going to be on the consent agenda on November 3rd for the City Council. It is for window tinting at Harrison Memorial Library. And we have checked in with the architects. It's to protect the collection from UV rays, and it was felt that it was very worthwhile because it will be a bit of time still before anything happens at Harrison. So we'll get the advantage of having UV film on the windows, which is nearly transparent. I want to put that out there because we don't want to change the appearance of the building.
It's not going to be dark and smoky.
No, but it will do the trick, and that'll protect our collections for another year or two until anything else is changed. So
Great.
We're excited about that. And congratulations to Katie. She
Yes,
applied
that's
for
great.
the grant.
Any other announcements? No, okay. And there's no public appearances? Okay, we'll move right on. So the first thing on our agenda is to finally receive the fiscal year audit for the year 2023 to 24. And Sheldon Chavan, I hope, is on the line and is going to give us that presentation.
I am here.
Yay.
Not sure if we're going to have video, though. I don't see a video option. So you might just get to see my 32-year-old version of me almost 20 years ago. Probably time for a new picture. Can everybody hear me?
We can hear you, and I think your report is also in our agenda packet. So if you can just maybe prompt us to what page you're on, we can follow along without the video.
All right, give me 1 second. Let me get the agenda packet up on my end.
Okay, thanks.
That way I'm referencing the correct page numbers. While I'm looking this up, I will go ahead and start with the required communication. So One thing to note, obviously, this audit is performed as a part of the city's overall audit. It's actually a component unit of the city. It's included as a special revenue fund in the city's annual comprehensive financial report. And so a lot of the procedures we perform are coordinated with that audit. The other thing I would like to note as I'm pulling up the agenda is that what the actual requirements are and what the standards are that we follow to perform this audit. So we follow generally accepted auditing standards in the United States of America. We also follow generally accepted governmental auditing standards. As a result of that, we issue two different opinion letters. One opinion letter talks about the actual financial statements, our responsibilities for those financial statements, management's responsibility for those financial statements, as well as what our overall objective is. And that objective is to issue an opinion on those financial statements and let the readers know whether or not we believe those financial statements are free of material misstatement. Give me 1 second. I am not finding the agenda. All right, so I'm going to have to, I don't think it was sent to me, and I can't find it online. So if anybody has a moment to send me a link to the agenda, that'd be great. And otherwise, we're going to have to work based on the report page numbers, which shouldn't be too difficult. So I'll continue on under that basis. Not sure if I'm allowed to share my screen or not. That might save everybody time.
Yes, that's fine.
Okay, perfect. Let's see. I don't have the option to share my screen, so IT is going to have to step in and see if they can do that or not.
Okay, but I think Leslie is sending you the agenda packet, Sheldon, but we can
Perfect,
try to
thank you.
follow along.
Sheldon, if you try, they say, IT says if you try and click on council chambers, you should see that as one of the options. You should be able to share your screen then.
All right, let me see. Try it under more. Nope. Yeah, the only options I'm getting are chat, raise hand, show captions, and more. And under more, it's transfer meeting to a room, which we don't want to do. And everything else is audio settings.
I just sent you the agenda.
Yeah, I think I saw the email. Let me pull that up. Nope. Junk email? Nope.
It should be at the bottom.
Yeah, I haven't received the email. That's okay. I'll continue. It's probably just taking a bit. I'll keep my emails open on the side here just in case it comes through. And there it is. Thank you. Of course, it's going to take a second for my filters to let the attachment come through. C.P.A firms are under cyber attack all the time. All right, so where I left off was talking about the opinion we issue. Materiality is a concept, and that is defined under the standards I previously mentioned. And materiality is something that has evolved over the years, and it's important to understand that the reason behind materiality, we identify dollar amounts within the financial statement audit that are acceptable misstatements before they become material. And those dollar amounts, that's the quantitative aspect of materiality, but we also have to think about the qualitative aspects of materiality. And so we try to consider what the public might think is material when they read the financial statements. That's a difficult thing to try to accomplish. It's a difficult concept, trying to guess at what the public might think is significant to them. But it's something we take into account, and we document our thought process and our analytics and risk analysis when we determine materiality based on the standards we follow. So the bottom line is we identify materiality based on dollar amounts, total assets, total revenues, and we take percentages of that. But then we're always cognizant of what the public might think or other readers might think in terms of significance and how that impacts materiality. So for example, in this particular audit, we set our materiality levels at 5% of total assets, but then we actually reduced that threshold for certain transactions that we test, for example, expenditures. by half. So we went to 2.5% for those. Just because we felt that during our risk analysis, it was more prudent to drop those thresholds to perform those tests and get more coverage. So that goes back to what our opinion is, and our opinion is very simply that we issue, whether or not those financial statements are free of material misstatement, right? So that's the overall goal of the audit. In achieving that objective, when we follow generally accepted governmental auditing standards, and that scan just finished, when we follow generally accepted governmental auditing standards, we also are looking for noncompliance and abuse. Abuse was added to that a couple years ago. And abuse can come in different forms. And generally, we're looking at public use of funds and whether or not that use of public funds was appropriate, right? That's the overall generalized idea behind abuse. So I now have that link, and I have the agenda. Let me get some page numbers, and we will start. Okay, perfect. Right there at the beginning. All right, let's take a look at, let me see what kind of page numbers we have here. Page 7 of 46 in the agenda packet. This should be the table of contents. Great spot to start. And don't worry, I'm not going to take you through every single line item. I've given you the overarching concept of the audit, what we follow, and I'm going to start you off with the results now. Or I guess secondly, I'll give you the results. But before we get into that, just want you to understand what's included in the financial packet. So has everybody moved to page 7 and you do see the table of contents?
Yes, we do. Thank you.
All right, perfect. So nothing has changed from prior year in terms of what's included in the audit report, the financial reporting package. You have the independent auditor's report, of course. That's the one that follows generally accepted auditing standards. You have your balance sheet, your income statement, otherwise known as a statement of revenues, expenditures, and changes in fund balance. You have supporting notes to financial statements. Then you have required supplementary information, which is your budget to actual. Technically, per standards, we don't issue an opinion on that schedule. We do audit the budget in terms of tying out, reconciling, and make sure it makes sense. But we just don't issue an opinion on this particular schedule. We're actually not allowed to, which is funny, but that's how the standards have been set. Other independent auditors' reports, that's the generally accepted governmental auditing standards. If you read that opinion letter, it's a kind of a protect yourself type opinion letter for CPAs. In essence, what it says is that we do not issue an opinion on internal controls. Mind you, we can issue an opinion on internal controls. That's new, but we have to be engaged to do so. It's called an integrated audit. Not very common yet. We've done a couple for a couple clients, but most aren't interested because the requirements aren't there. Requirements are not there to have an internal control audit or an integrated audit. I doubt that it ever will become a requirement, but when you read this opinion, it might look a little funny when it says we do not opine on internal controls. So just so you know. Also, it says we do not opine on compliance. Now, while we're required to test general compliance in relation to the audit, we don't actually issue an opinion on compliance in this particular audit, following generally accepted governmental auditing standards. All right, so there's your overview of the table of contents. I'm just going to give you a quick look at the opinion letter now, probably the most important piece of what you want to hear today. So page 11 of 46 is the opinion letter. Let me know when you're there, please.
We're there.
All right, so the most important paragraphs, the first 2 paragraphs, opinion. In the old days, I'd say 5 years ago actually, maybe 4, the opinion was the last paragraph of the letter. So it's nice that it's right there, first thing for you to read now. And in essence, this is what you want to be able to read. The second paragraph. In our opinion, the financial statements referred to above present fairly in all material respects. There's that materiality concept. The respective financial position of the Harrison Memorial Library Fund. So ultimately, what this means is you have a clean audit, right? Auditors don't issue good news. They only issue bad news, right? So when we're plain vanilla saying everything's fine, when we say things are fine, it's unmodified, right? But that's a pass. That's as good as it gets. It's in the old days we'd call it unqualified. So that's a clean opinion on the audit. So there you go. Congratulations on that. Another good year in terms of the financial statement audit. What does that mean, an unmodified opinion? It means that we didn't have any material misstatements. We didn't find any material weaknesses, and we didn't find any significant deficiencies. Now, the one thing I will say, I wasn't the engagement partner for the city audit this last year, but I was 3 years ago. And so I get involved on a higher level, like I'll come to the board meetings and stuff like that, but I can't be a part of the engagement partner role. I can now, but we change it up just to keep it to meet two rules. One is there's a state government code for local government audits where every 6 years you have to rotate engagement partners. So my partner took over for that reason. But also, you also want to keep the audit fresh, right? So I try to stay out of the details of the audits. But I'll still come present at board meetings, and I'll still meet with management if my partner needs me to on his behalf, things of that nature. But with that being said, I did make a recommendation a few years back to the city to get more involved on bank reconciliations and reviewing transactions at the library level. Previous management, I mean, Chip was still there, but I think the assistant city managers changed over, and then of course finance departments changed over. So I just want to get that out there so the board knows that that's been talked about in the past, but it hasn't been identified as a significant deficiency or material weakness. Just something where we thought it might be better practices. So just a heads up on that as you're transitioning library directors.
Can you explain that a little more? So we go through the check register every month and reconcile it at this meeting and approve it. So I'm just not
Yep.
clear what else you're advising.
The finance department for the city is what the advisement was back a few years ago. The recommendation was that they actually get more involved on a monthly or quarterly basis on what's happening with the financial statements for the library. That was it, purely and simple. And the reason is that they don't pick up the general ledger activity on that library until the end of the year.
I guess we're just not clear why that would be important.
Well, it's very simple. The city reports the library as a fund in their annual comprehensive annual report. As such, they have a requirement to represent that, or management has a requirement to represent that they are responsible for the financial statements. And they can't really wholly be responsible for those financial statements unless they're performing a certain amount of review. And so the recommendation was that, hey, it's a little bit weak in terms of what the city is doing on review because it's only happening annually, that it should be more routine and more timely. So that's it, purely on their side of things. So what you're doing as a library and as a library board and the director, everything is fine. So therefore you get a clean opinion on your financial statements with no material weaknesses. But from the city side, it was best practice to perform a more timely review and update the general ledger on their side in terms of what's happening with the financial statements of HML.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Everybody, any other questions about that?
Would that be an additional cost with the auditors? Or would that just be an additional job for the city to do?
Just the city side, and it should actually. I don't think it would be more of an impact on you and any shared costs, because the city, I think they can basically consume all the payroll, right, for this. So I don't think there'd be any issue there. And definitely not an audit, no change in the audit fee doesn't impact us at all, because we're still coming in and doing the same thing we're going to do, which is, perform our walkthroughs on internal controls and then do the substantive testing on the trial balance. It's just really best practices dictate more timely reconciliation in the general ledger side for the city. So that's it. So they just need to be a little bit more hands-on, more routinely. That's all it was.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so with that being said, let's take a look at your financial statements. We'll find you a good page number. Excuse me. So the next page is 15 of 46. So on page 15 of 46, you're going to see the balance sheet as of June 30, 2024. Hopefully I didn't reference 2025 before. I forget that we're late on this because I missed a couple meetings. And by the way, I apologize for that. I was actually in town for the first scheduled meeting and that got canceled. And then the second two were not on my calendar, magically disappeared because I know they were there. So this time around, I actually had it sent to both my partner and I. So if somehow I missed it again, my partner would have shown up today. So it would have been fine. So here we are looking at the June 30, 2024 balance sheet, and it's actually very consistent with the 23 balance sheet, which the numbers are did not change much in terms of the outstanding balances from 23 to 24. For example, looking at your cash and investments at June 30, 24, you have 1.486 million. At June 30, 23, hold on one second, make sure I got the right file open. I have a couple going now. There it is. You had 1.474 million. So not a significant change. Accounts payable June 30, 24, they're just under $33,000. Accounts payable at June 30, 2023, just under $24,000. So not a significant change there. Overall fund balance, unassigned fund balance is consistent. $984,000 June 30, 2023, just over $1 million June 30, 2024. And, you know, the one thing that we are required to do in an audit is evaluate whether an entity's going concern will be at risk, whether or not you'll have a lack of going concern. And we do that from the date we issued the report, right? We're looking at that date. So typically it's the opinion letter date, and through 12 months later. That's it. So we only have a year out from the date we issue the report that we have to evaluate that. And what that means is we're looking at the entity's fund balance, budget, a couple, 3 years worth of operating activities to determine whether or not the doors will stay open for the next 12 months once we issue the report, right? So obviously we feel that there's no lack of going concern related to this, to the HML. And if there were, we issue modifications to our opinion letter, which we did not. So clean opinion, you wouldn't have a clean opinion if we thought there's a lack of going concern. One last thing we can look at that I think is relevant. Actually, there's two. I'll take you to one. This will summarize everything in one shot related to the income statement. So I'm going to take you to the budget tab instead. Take a look at that. I think it might be more relevant for you. So this is page. Oops, let me get to the right PDF. Hang on one second. There we go. This one's more towards the back. It's page 30 of 46. Let me know when you're there.
We're there, thank you.
Thank you. All right, so this is the income statement, schedule of revenues, expenditures, and changes in fund balance with the original budget, final budget, and the actual amounts for the year into June 30, 2024. So I think really it's important to note that while the library was slightly over budget, if you look at that total expenditures line there, $12,868 over budget, the revenue was also over budget, and so the impact on the fund balance was a positive $8,000. So you had more money come in and you spent that money. Typically, under generally accepted governmental auditing standards, we have a requirement to disclose when an entity is over budget, over appropriated, actuals over final budget. However, materiality came into play on this. Obviously, it's immaterial. Plus the fact that your revenues exceeded budget as well. So no additional disclosures were required for this. So in terms of 24 versus 23, let me give you an idea how that looks in terms of the actuals. So overall, expenses for June 30, 2024 were $415,768. In 2023, they were $443,714, so a decrease there of about $30,000. And most of that was from equipment. The documents and records expense was consistent. Programs and cataloging actually went up a bit in 2024. By about $20,000. The administration costs went up a bit in 2024 by about $5,000, but really the equipment costs were what went down quite a bit. It was about a $65,000 decrease from 23 to 24. So a little bit of a history lesson. I think really what you want to take away from this audit, from this report, especially this late when presenting it to you, is the fact that you have an unmodified opinion, and that it's always something of a history lesson, right? We're always looking back in an audit, never looking forward, except for the lack of going concern. But really, it gives you that peace of mind that you have a reliable starting fund balance, reliable audit in the prior period, and that things were ran the way they needed to be in looking forward, and so that your projections and that your budgets and your expectations going forward don't need to be revised based on the results of an audit. So there you go. With that, I'll go ahead and leave it open to any questions that you may have.
Any questions? Yeah, Marie-Clare? Oh, sorry, Donna.
Thank you. It's very well explained. I'm new to the trustee board here, and I understand this took a year and 3 months for us to get from 23 to 24. So my question is, the 24 to 25, which ended in June of this year, when will that report normally be presented?
Yeah, so if you look at the audit opinion letter, we actually dated it in February of 25. So there was a delay in getting it to the board, but the audit was actually wrapped up quite 8 months ago. So I would say that you should get this in February of 26, reasonable expectation, which is normal in terms of, we have to get through the city's audit and wrap all that up and then do all the reporting for them, and then we'll come to you guys and report to you. Now, we can make this more of a priority if you want us to. We can get it to you before the end of the year, maybe January at the latest if you want to push on that. But if you have no pressing need for us, February would be a good timeline.
I asked the chair, I don't believe it's pressing unless there's someone else who thinks it is. I just think that it'll be more timely.
I agree.
Any other questions or comments on the report? So I think, do we need to make a motion to accept the report? No, it's just information. Okay, great. All right, well, Sheldon, sorry for all of the digital issues, and grateful that we were able to get you here this month. And thank you very much.
Absolutely, my pleasure. I'm always happy to come present in person. Love visiting Carmel.
Okay, yeah. Well, we'll work on that for next year. Thanks.
All right. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye. Okay. So the next item on our agenda is to approve the minutes for September 24, 2025 regular meeting. Is there?
I make a motion to approve the minutes.
Second that. Donna Jett.
Yes.
Marie-Clare Gorham.
Yes.
Mary Jo Williams.
Yes.
Approved, thank you.
Great. And the librarian's report for September 2025.
Thank you. There are a few pages of data points that my staff has put together and I've reviewed. I'll just try to highlight a few items. So this is on page 39 of the packet. In looking at circulation, which is checkouts, what we're noticing on trend with the rest of the country is that electronic checkouts are on the rise. They have been really for the last 6 years or so, especially during the pandemic. Many public libraries added a lot of resources in this area to balance our physical collection in our libraries, in part because the libraries were not accessible, except perhaps curbside or front door service. So we are seeing electronic checkouts increase by about a little more than 13%. Which is to be expected. I think once people discover a format and find it convenient, they will continue to use it. I don't find it alarming at all that our other circulation of other materials is sort of settling back a little. that is, again, kind of trending with public libraries. If you turn to the next report, circulation by borrowers, I am looking into something right now that is on the agenda, the MOU for the shared resources amongst 3 cities. And so it was interesting to me to see that county-wide, we're seeing a little bit of drop in non-resident use and borrowing, but there are other zip codes outside of Monterey County, and perhaps that we could attribute that to visitors or perhaps employees who are working in Monterey County. But we are seeing our total card holders adjust, and I want to talk about that. Patron registration, which is library cards issued every 3 years or so. We look at cards that have been inactive. And usually if you just use your card once, like for electronic or borrowing of materials, it'll remain active. And so in order to continue to keep that sort of healthy and current, we do what's called a purge of databases for inactive cards. And anybody who is one of those card holders is welcome to come back and reactivate their card. But this keeps our numbers in a good stead. Also, visitor count, not surprising, our Youth Services Department is the winner. They had nearly 11% increase in visitors, and I know it's a very popular space. My office is over at the Park Branch, and so I get to see the activity, and much of that can be attributed to programs as well, held in the building. Let's see, another item, if you look at page 41, this is under electronic search activity. Wi-Fi use is increased significantly, about 40% change. And I don't know if we've adjusted our Wi-Fi, if it's faster, but it's definitely being found and utilized and quite popular. I do want to qualify that some staff are also using the public Wi-Fi. So that could be a contributing factor. Let's see, and I have one other item. Now, on the last chart on page 42, this is all about programs, and you can see that summer reading attendance is up 98%. And this year we had a total of 456 participants. Total attendance is up 75%, and that's inclusive of preschool programming, 0 to 5. That's kind of a sweet spot for public libraries, and we're happy that the community is using our programs. Teen attendance, I can attribute that to having a pretty dynamic teen librarian. Sierra is really bringing them in, so almost a 37% increase. And total attendance, if you average all of the ages, is still up almost 6%. And so on trend, we're getting back to where we were pre-pandemic in 2019. And some of that we can attribute certainly to programs. Local history programs and total attendance, I'm going to guess because Katie was very gracious in taking on an interim assignment. She had less time to dedicate, but you'll see that bounce back, I'm sure, in the next item or the next report. There was one other item. Well, I'm going to talk about the MOU. Just in general, because this affects our ability to purchase materials. Baker & Taylor is a significant and major and our primary vendor of acquisitions of library books, audiobooks, DVDs, and our backup vendor has been Ingram. Baker & Taylor is closing after nearly 200 years of service. And they were trying to sell the company, thought they had everything in place, and in September, on the very last day, the buyer backed out. So they were left without much options. So I think they're in business through the end of December. We have a very astute librarian in charge of this acquisitions part of our service, and He has been tracking this for about 6 months, started shifting a lot of our orders over to Ingram. And as soon as other vendors are available, we'll be looking for another vendor to supplement Ingram. You never want to have everything, for this very reason, I guess, but this is really quite startling and news. And what does that mean to our community? It means that some of our newer items are going to be delayed in fulfilling requests and holds. So we're going to push out some information on social media and our website and make sure in a newsletter we'll publish soon. So kind of big news in the library world, but it does have an impact on borrowers' expectations.
Are they one of the vendors that you got the books all ready to go? Meaning that didn't require any additional work on the librarian's part to put on the
Right.
shelf?
There are three
I
or
think
four
so.
major vendors, and Baker and Taylor are the one that, so it's called pre-processed.
Yes.
So, the Mylar covers and the labels and the actual item that we drop into our catalog so you can do searches and retrieve all of that digital information. Yes, that was one of our major ones. The other vendors do also provide that. We're finding Ingram is a little more expensive than Baker and Taylor. So we're working very hard, and it's tricky, and I guess if it had to happen, I'm glad it happened in the fall, because usually by about April, we're really very closely monitoring the budget to make sure that we're not going to exceed, and so we have a little time to adjust to the new vendor and pricing structure.
I know, because I was just concerned about staff time. I know that, the pre-processing can,
Right, I should qualify, we are doing some things that we can't get from Ingram or can't get in a timely way. We are purchasing from Amazon, and those will have to be processed in-house. Yeah.
all right, well, we should think about this when we do the budget update in January. All right. Any questions? Or anybody else have any questions about that?
Thank you for the update.
Yes, thank you. Okay. And next is to receive a progress report on the Harrison Memorial Library Restoration Project. So I think, as always, Alex, you'll be talking about this as well during your remarks. But Melinda, is there anything you want to add at this point?
I'm early in the game, but I have to say my first week, I think I attended 6 meetings, including the community meeting. It's a very exciting opportunity, and I love to see a community engaged in what will happen with this gem of a historic library. So not a lot to report, but I do have some experience with projects, and a couple that are historical renovations. One is in the city of Richmond, where I still do a little bit of work managing a grant to help their restoration of a 1947 building. So I hope to apply some of the things that, some of the insights that I've acquired there to this project, and hope to have a meaningful impact in my short tenure here.
Good morning, trustees and interim director, Melinda Cervantes. At the end of last month, CPLF held its annual board retreat, and we were really excited to have Melinda attend, as well as Donna, Jett. So thank you so much for being part of that. We had a really terrific presentation from the librarians and also from the library consultant for the restoration project, as well as our architect. And so it was, I think, informative and also inspiring. So thanks again for attending. CPLF is rapidly progressing towards meeting our fundraising goal and ensuring this project gets completed as expeditiously as possible. We've raised approximately 80% of the funding now, and we are working diligently to keep our momentum going for this vital restoration. Tonight, CPLF is presenting its 3rd program in our speaker series, The Power of Language, through the Henry Mead Williams Local History Lecture Series, The Muckraker, How the Radical Lincoln Steffens Won the Hearts, if not the Minds, in Carmel with the journalist Joe Livernois, and we hope that you can attend 7 p.m. tonight at Carpenter Hall. And then if you would save the date for November 5th, we have another program, Crying for Daylight, honoring voices of the land with photographer and historian Louise O'Connor, which will also take place at the Carpenter Hall. The Library of the City of Carmel and CPLF will be presenting a third community workshop on November 10th at Carpenter Hall, where our architectural firm, Moore, Rubel, Udell, will provide an updated summary of the project information that has already been gathered thus far, and to continue the dialogue with the community. And that's what I have. Does anyone have any questions or anything?
Just because I wasn't there at the last community engagement, so just how did that go? What was the community response?
Okay, so there is a summary, I believe, on our website page for the Centennial Restoration as well as the city, and CPLF are exchanging links and working towards having all of that information available. But suffice to say, it was very successful, very similar actually to the first one where we had almost the same amount of people, I would say, but between 60 to 64 community members. All the 8 tables were full. And the options for design were a little bit more drilled down and explored by the community. And so this has just been a really interesting experience, I think, for both the architectural firm as well as the community to have the input. But we're not hearing anything that wasn't expected. So, the top tenets of this project still remain: keep that historic charm of the building. We want our books, but we also want some flexible space in the library. We want to have efficiencies where we can, whether it's in energy or in layout. So those things have remained pretty consistent, but that's also informative too. So, thank you.
Thank you, Alex. Thanks very much.
Thank you.
It's exciting. Okay, the next agenda item, Melinda, you're going to recommend approval of an agreement between the City of Carmel-by-the-Sea, Monterey, and Pacific Grove for public library resource sharing.
Yes, I've prepared a brief report and have provided a copy of the agreement that has been worked on for probably the last year or so. Much of the success of this I can attribute to Ashley Wright, who's the former library director. Great team with Monterey and Pacific Grove. These two cities have had resource sharing in place for a number of years, and they have now invited Carmel to get involved. And what this means is that there will be if you're using the catalog of the library to search for items, you search once, and if the item is available at either of the other two city libraries or Carmel, we agree to deliver those items to one another. And so in the first year of this project, the pickup and drop-off will be at the Harrison Memorial Library, and then at some future date when that location is not available, we can select one other location, likely to be the Park Branch Library. I think this will be very convenient for our community and borrowers. It'll certainly increase access to many more items, many more titles, and we're looking forward to both the approval of the MOU as well as implementation. So for those of us that have worked in libraries a long time, or those of you who have used services of libraries, this is sort of an interlibrary loan project, but I think the fact that we will have this shared catalog is really going to make it seamless and easy to use. So I see it as a real positive for the community. So we are making a recommendation, and the action that you would take is to recommend approval of this agreement, and then because there's no money involved in the MOU, this can then be moved forward and the city administrator can sign off on it.
Right, it's already been reviewed by the city attorney and approved, so. Okay, so I think we need a motion to approve this agreement, unless, you have any questions? Yes.
I have a question. Do they have more capacity than we do, like more books or more newspapers? Or is it a larger library in content?
I would say, because of the size of the cities, they probably have more items. My staff tells me we have the better collection, so we shall see. But, I think anytime you have access to just more copies of
Yes.
popular titles, as well as perhaps some historic information that's not available in our collection that may be unique to the area, Monterey and Pacific Grove. And we already have patrons who move between the libraries, and this will just make it a little simpler. I should have mentioned delivery would increase to 5 days a week for these 3 locations, and then we will continue the 3-day-a-week delivery service throughout the Monterey Bay area. That's another organization or cooperative we belong to.
Thank you. That sounds very advantageous for us.
Yes.
Because if they have a lot of popular book titles that we don't have, that's a service to the patrons. Thank you.
You're welcome.
I think Ashley was also looking at this with knowing that our library would be closed and it would reduce perhaps the number of things we need to store or have on site, right? Because we could be able to share these resources, particularly for things that are not maybe the most popular, but still we want to have available. So I think it's a great thing. So glad this is going forward. So assuming we approve it, somebody would like to make a motion?
You want to make a motion?
Okay, make a motion to recommend approval of the agreement between the City of Carmel-by-the-Sea, City of Monterey, City of Pacific Grove for public library resource sharing.
I second the motion.
Donna, Jett,
Yes.
Marie-Clare, Gorham,
Yes.
Mary Jo Williams.
Yes.
Approved, thank you.
Great.
Thank you.
Okay. Is there anything else before we adjourn the meeting that anybody wanted to bring up? Or I know our next meeting, we will not have a meeting in November because of the holidays. I believe the date is December 10th for the next board meeting at 9 o'clock. So let me just confirm that. You might be right. Let me check.
I have it as the 3rd as well.
Okay, I must have it wrong. So I will move it to the 3rd. Thank you. So we'll see you on December 3rd at 9 a.m. And I know, I'm sure we will continue to have an update on the renovation project. I'm not sure of any other agenda items at the moment, but any requests or anything we want to make sure is addressed before the end of the year?
I just was wondering. Who's going to be in the parade?
Oh, at the parade. I am,
Yeah.
yes.
I think Leslie said I can bring the big kids. So.
All right.
They do love it. It's,
I remember.
yeah, you two that are spirited. Right?
Yes, yes. Yeah, that'll be fun.
Yeah. So we'll be there for sure. I don't know.
Yes.
We'll see how they're behaving, if they can come on the car or not.
All right. Okay, anything else? Okay, meeting is adjourned. Thank you.